Hey there, all. This is Warwick from Beware, and we're just looking at doing some interesting new stuff this year. So I'm on here today on a live video. Welcome, and we happy to have you on board. Quick thing, we had a question from somebody today, and I thought it's one that we have fairly regularly. So let's tackle this with a live video. The question was, how do I move my bees, and what can I do about moving bees? So a couple of things to talk about here. One is whenever you're moving bees, you've got to decide how far you're going to move them away. If they're going to be more than a kilometer away, then hammer it. Go for it. Obviously, you do only move your bees at night because that's when all the bees are back at the hive from their foraging, and this is after dusk. Obviously, sealing up your bees would be important. Use things like sponges, and also use strapping so that the hive doesn't move, or components of the hive don't move around while you're driving around over dongos, potholes, or speed bumps. I've done that when I was moving a lot of bees during the evening, and you can get roundabouts and speed bumps all over on your trip in urban areas as well as out in the bushveld. So make sure that your bees are strapped down and secure. But what happens when you are only moving your bees about 100 meters or so, or less than a kilometer away? So there's a couple of things here. Two things that you need to do. One is you can move them day by day, only a maximum of 3 meters away. The reason being is that bees have got an amazing GPS system. All right, they can track where the hive is. They need to be able to track where the hive is whenever they leave the colony after they've done the orientation flights. So as soon as people do that, or decide to do that, and they want to move their hive, and let's say it's only 20, 50, even 200 meters away, it's not far enough for their GPS to be reset overnight. So what you have to do there is make sure that you're moving them only about 2 to 3 meters at the most every single day, and that again needs to only take place at night. So obviously in this case you're not going to seal the colony, and you're not needing to necessarily strap them, depending on how heavy they are and how many components you have. Obviously the lighter the better. There is another option. The other option is that you, regardless of how far you want to move the bees, move them away at least a kilometer, leave them at that new spot, the temporary site, for up to about a week, not less than 3 days, again at night. And then what this does is that will reset the bees' GPS system. They will reorientate themselves at the new site temporary. They don't know it's temporary, but they'll reorientate themselves in the temporary site. After 3 days should be more than enough, but up to a week if you need to. You can leave them for longer if you wanted, and then you can decide again at night to bring them back to where you wanted to, regardless of how many meters away it was from the original spot that you had them in. Whatever you do though, obviously just remember that the day after that you move the bees, they are probably going to be a little bit agitated, and you might want to just, if you are in urban areas, you might just want to warn your neighbors, and keep people away from that particular area for at least 24 hours, just because they're going to be a little bit more on edge because they've been moved around. I mean, so would you. It's one of the most stressful times in our lives as people, and these aren't much different when we move house. So those two things, just remember, if it's less than a kilometer, you've got the option of moving them day by day 2 to 3 meters, or move them to a temporary site that's further than a kilometer away. Leave them there for a minimum of three nights, but you can leave them for longer, as long as you need to, and then move them back to the site that you want them at. Or alternatively, if you're moving them more than a kilometer anyway, just make sure that you, however long you're traveling for, if it's like a 2-3 hour drive, the bees need to breathe. So whatever you do, seal the entrances with, use sponges. Probably better idea to use sponges than anything else, because at least then there's a bit of an airflow. And they're not going to suffocate. And whatever you do, whenever you get to the other side, make sure that you unplug everything. Don't forget to unplug, or pull out the sponges or anything else that you've used to then block the area so the bees can't come out. Otherwise, you are going to have a situation where the bees are going to die. And that's the last thing we would want in a situation like this. So yeah, hopefully that's answered your question. I use just normal face sponges, the ones that you can use to wash your face or do the dishes with, as long as it fits in the gap that you've got at the front of the entrance of the hive. And if you are doing long, extensive trips, last thing on this point would be that you may want to spray the hive with some sugar water very quickly, obviously after you've sealed them. But then that would disturb the bees a little bit. But if you do have a lengthy trip to make, like a 2 to 3 hour trip, especially if you're moving a quantity of bees for pollination, that might be worthwhile doing. Spraying the bees with opening up the hive, spraying the bees with a solution of 1-to-1 sugar water, closing the hive, the lid itself, anyways, strapping everything up, putting them on the truck or the trailer that you're going to be using to move them with. And if you are doing trips through the urban areas, it would be really wise to be able to cover the bees, just in case you have a couple of escapees in the process, and you don't want to endanger anybody else, any animals, or any of the public while you're stopping at robots and traffic lights and stop streets and whatnot. Even though you might be doing it at night, there's less traffic, there's no people traffic around. Bees will be attracted to the lights at night, and usually there's people walking about these in those areas at night at some point or other. And that's it. Cool. If you've got any more questions that you'd like us to do a live video on, shoot them to the Facebook page or email us, and we'll see what we can do. Awesome. Look forward to doing more of these. Warwick from Beware. I'm out. Buzz, buzz.